Good afternoon and welcome to another session for the CERIAS Security Seminar from Purdue University. Today's speaker is Daniel Hoffman. Dan is a senior systems engineer with Fiberlink Communications. Fiberlink is a leader in the wireless security industry. Dan is also the author of two books, Blackjacking, Security Threats to BlackBerry Devices, PDAs, and Cell Phones in Enterprise, and the soon-to-be-released Implementing NAC and NAP Security Solutions, the complete guide to network access control. Dan, welcome.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for having me today. I'm actually quite excited to be at Purdue. Both of my brothers graduated from Purdue. One's a captain that flies 747s for Japan Airlines. Another one has his own very successful business. So I've spent many days and nights on the Purdue campus, so thank you very much for having me. Today we're going to cover a couple different things, but the big thing I hope you get out of this presentation is it's going to come from a little bit different perspective. You know, it's easy to get security information from marketing people and salespeople, and it's not knocking them, but it's also different getting it from a certified ethical hacker's perspective. Getting from a perspective of somebody who says, you know what, I know how to exploit these devices, I know how hackers do things, and then talk about how you mitigate the risks of security. So I'm going to give you the kind of the hacker's perspective to it. It's kind of funny. I'm a certified ethical hacker. Not sure if you heard that certification before, but it's a pretty good one, pretty interesting one that's offered by EC Council. So if you're interested in learning any of these hands-on things I'm going to show you, that's a great certification to be able to use. And I'm also going to give you the perspective as part of my job, I get to talk to some of the largest companies in the world. I get to see what they're doing from a security perspective. I get to see what initiatives they're working on. I get to see what they're concerned about. So I think that can bring a unique perspective. So I'm going to show you the security presentation from the perspective of those two perspectives. And I'm also going to talk about some specific hacks. I'll show you guys a couple hacks that can actually take place that are pretty realistic. And of course, I'll show you how to be able to address some of those hacks. So the big thing that I ask customers or prospects or companies when I meet with them is, at this very moment, where's your sensitive data? 20 years ago, it was a little bit easier to answer. Today, you know, it could be a little bit more complex to answer. But when I ask this question, although what a lot of companies say is, you know what, it's sitting on our land. We got all these firewalls and IPS equipment and all this physical security guarding our data, so that's where our sensitive data is. Problem is that's probably not true anymore. Things have changed considerably. Laptop sales have now surpassed desktop sales. The average laptop computer will have 60% of corporate data on it, or 60% of all corporate data resides on PCs. So think about that for a minute. When you go get a new job and you're sitting at a company, the first thing they're going to give you is a laptop computer that you can take home and work on, that you can take on appointments, that you can take on an airplane with you, and you're going to have sensitive corporate data on there. If that's true, which it is very much true, then what's protecting that data? Certainly any IPS equipment, firewalls, and all that other good stuff they have on the corporate LAN doesn't even come into play. You're not on the corporate LAN anymore. You're mobile. This is a big problem for a lot of companies. And it's interesting because the number one security application that's out there that's protecting all this sensitive data is antivirus. I don't ever go into a company and say, hey, do you have antivirus? Well, no, you know, we really don't believe in antivirus software. Everybody has it, every single company. They might not have encryption, they might not have personal firewalls, they might not be able to patch their machines. So what they have actually protecting their sensitive data is antivirus software. Problem with that is that antivirus software, frankly, doesn't do a very good job. You can look at whatever reports you want to look at that are out there, but as you can look at this from Auster here, as much as 80% of new malware defeats antivirus. So think about that for a second. And if you look at the quote here, it says, desktop antivirus applications don't work. That's not me saying this. This is Auster saying this. And if you talk to anybody who's been in security for a long time, they'll tell you the exact same thing. Antivirus is a necessity. It's a necessity to have it up and running. It's a necessity to have it up to date. But in reality, it catches very few of the threats that are actually out there. And that's a real big thing to understand. So if you're an enterprise out there and you have all this sensitive data and you're relying on antivirus to be able to protect it, you're essentially missing the boat. And that's what a big part of this presentation is going to be about. What it basically means is that companies need to change their strategy. Again, this reliance on antivirus, this reliance on land-based systems to protect mobile systems is just wrong. They need to change their strategy and start moving these technologies to the endpoint. And one point is certainly true, and you can look at whatever example you want to look at. TJ Maxx is a prime example of where not implementing the proper technology got them into trouble. You can look at just about any different vertical that's out there, whether it's healthcare, financial, or what have you. But one simple fact remains. The cost of not doing something, the cost of inactivity, the cost of not doing the right security things is more expensive than actually doing what you're supposed to. So what that means is by putting in the different solutions, by configuring things properly, by having a handle on this situation, it's actually cheaper than not doing anything. Because ultimately it's going to come back and bite you for not doing it, and the cost can be considerable. So let's talk about data, because that's what the big thing is these days. Is it's about protecting data, because data can be in just about anywhere. Looking at it from a laptop perspective, how is data actually compromised? There's lots of ways, but I think for the most part they can be put into 4 different groups. One that you hear about a lot is laptop is lost or stolen. Happened with the VA. I'm a Coast Guard veteran. I got a letter in the mail when that one laptop was stolen from the person's house. I got the letter in the mail that said my information might have been lost or stolen. Pretty easy to realize. If you look at whatever stats that are out there, laptops are lost in taxi cabs or left in taxi cabs all the time. They're left in airports all the time. The numbers are staggering out there for lost and stolen laptops. Another key way that they're exploited, or that data is compromised, is the system is exploited. Could be a piece of malware. It could be somebody sitting there and being hacked indirectly and the information literally being pulled off the machine because the machine didn't have the proper security technologies in place. That's a vector. Also, data can be viewed as it's transmitted. More and more people are working from public Wi-Fi hotspots, at the airport, at a Starbucks, for free at Panera, all these different places. That data is literally flying through the air just waiting to be seen. And then finally, data can be sent to unauthorized devices. Data leakage, or DLP, is a term that's out there right now, very hot topic for organizations. What can people do with data? Well, think about this. You have your Active Directory permissions allow you to access these folders, so that's controlling data? Not really true. What if you take that data and you copy it to your laptop? Then you take that laptop off the corporate network. The company has no insight or control into that data. It can be copied to USB drives and lost or stolen. It can be forwarded to personal email accounts. It could be sold. It's kind of a big vector there. So if you really look at how data is compromised, it can fall into about 4 basic categories. If you've never read this report, I recommend that you do. It's called Ghosts in the Browsers from Google. Anybody here ever read the report? It's good. It's about 30 pages or so long, so it's not something that's 150 pages long, but it's pretty interesting, and it really, in my mind, very clearly and succinctly outlays the problems with mobility. So think about this for a minute. Google made the report, right? Google's got access to a lot of different URLs and things of that nature, and they basically analyzed 4.5 million URLs. In doing that, they found about 1 in 10 sites will try to do something malicious to the person's computer. Think about that for a minute. This isn't just malicious sites such as pornography and gambling that people happen to go to. Look at what happened to Monster.com, right? Visiting the web page, your machine could be compromised. Bank of India had a very similar thing happen. What happened is you literally just open your browser, you visit a web page without clicking on anything, without installing anything, you view the page for less than 2 seconds, and your machine can be completely compromised. Okay? That's reality. That's how it works. And I'm going to show you a live hack in a second that shows you exactly how that can be done. But basically what the report says, it says, look, 1 in 10 sites can do something bad to you. How is it able to do that? Well, how about you're missing a Microsoft patch? If you look at any Microsoft Patch Tuesday, right, when they come out with their patches and that, a lot of them are related to Internet Explorer. Why? Well, because there's a lot of attacks you can do to Internet Explorer. People use it every day. It's probably the primary application that people use, right? They would surf the Internet. It's one of the first things you do when you wake up in the morning. So it's saying, look, a problem is getting the patches out there. Well, I can tell you this, and again, I get to talk to a lot of companies that are out there. Almost no company that's out there can actually patch a machine, push these patches out there to protect the machines when the machines are mobile. So if you're sitting at a Starbucks, you're on the road, you're at home, they have no ability, no physical ability to push that patch out, and that's when you need it. That's a very, very big problem for enterprises these days. And it also says, specifically, if you look at the last point there, it says if you're counting on antivirus to be able to protect you against these, you're completely missing the boat. Antivirus is reactive. It's not going to be able to catch it. What you really need is zero-day protection. And a point that I want to make clear here is I hope it doesn't seem like I'm bashing antivirus, because it does serve its purpose, but it's also important to just keep it into perspective. It's a tool. It's one of many tools